Some of the first things that we talk about, which I presume are, I guess, the most basic, is that when you're first interacting with someone, a great way to be a conversational leader is to set the vibe a level higher than you need to. So people often say, "How are you doing?" And people often respond, "Fine." And I'm guilty of this as well. But if you want to practice being charismatic, find a way to amp yourself up to be fantastic or great or amazing. That immediately sets the conversation off on a stronger foot. You also get these very, very common questions. They're almost these social niceties that we ask one another when we're getting to know one another. What do you do for a living? Where are you from? And people take these gimme questions and just submarine the conversation. I'm from Philadelphia. I'm a consultant. And so in just teaching people, look, you already have habits. These aren't who you are. Can we just make these start the conversation off on a much stronger foot? So we have worksheets within the course, and we kind of talk about some of the stuff on the YouTube channel. Instead of saying that you're a consultant, realize that the question the person is asking you is, please tell me anything interesting about yourself with which I can connect. That's what they're saying. When they say, where are you from? They're going, please say a city that I've been to. So I can say, oh my God, like the weather is so great. And do the favor of sticking out some Velcro for them to attach onto. So instead of saying Philadelphia, I might say, I grew up on the East Coast, but I was always a little bit of a crazy person. So in college, I moved to Brazil and did all this crazy entrepreneurial stuff with a bunch of friends. But now I've realized that I much prefer summer sports and surfing, and I live in California. Within that answer, there's surfing, there's sports, there's entrepreneurism, there's adventure, there's traveling internationally. There's all these different directions that the person that you're speaking to can listen to and decide to hook into. And what happens is when you give them 5, 6, 7 options in a 3-sentence answer, you're going to naturally go down conversations that both people are more interested in. So you might find yourself with one person talking about extreme sports and you're super fascinated on that. On the other hand, you're talking about something else. When we started talking, you had in your bio club promoter or something like that. And the first question I asked you was like, yo, tell me about club promoting, because that was something that I did when I was in New York. And so when you give people more about you to hook into early on in conversation, that helps tremendously. Another big thing in conversation is that we often take questions too literally. Again, what people are trying to do when they're meeting one another is just suss out a vibe. And so if you're answering every question very literally, the vibe that you're giving is, this is an interview. And I'm just, and sometimes that's great when you're diving down into the values that you have and that they have, and you can really connect over that. But oftentimes just answering one of the questions in a non-literal fashion sets the vibe of, I'm here to have fun. And this is especially important if you're out at a nightclub or something like that. So when someone asks you where you're from in a nightclub, you don't have to give them the whole Philadelphia spiel. You can say, can't you tell that I'm from the Congo? Or something ridiculous that can't possibly be true given your skin tone. And that sets the tone of the conversation to go down a much more fun, interesting vibe. So there's a lot that we talk about, but really starting an interaction in the direction you'd like it to head and being cognizant of that is a large part of the beginnings of what we teach, because then the conversation can kind of just take care of itself. People want to have much more fun than they're having. And so if you could be the person that breaks them out of the serious moment, whether it's via text or in conversation, they're going to appreciate you, want you around more. And it seems like a superpower, but all you're doing is not taking questions literally. If that's all you did, you would see that. And people are afraid to do it in the corporate world. That's the other thing. This is one of the things that got me ahead in work, was just not buying into the implicit social norms of the workplace. So that when you came in, you were supposed to be very serious. Being able to have fun in that sort of an environment is what ingratiated me to the bosses, made them much more amenable when I left. They wound up paying me a lot of money to work as an at-home consultant. It worked out fantastically. And it was not because I was the best consultant. It was because we built a human relationship instead of a corporate relationship. So again, those are the types of things that just work in almost any sort of environment, dating, professional, whatever.
It's crazy how much this sort of stuff feels like it would make someone stand out. They're relatively easy principles to follow. And yet, you know that if somebody was to do this and deliver effectively on a regular basis, that they would be in probably the top 5% of communicators, top 5% of funny people that you know.
Yeah. And again, within this, it's funny that you say this, because there still is what I talk about, the authentic type. And Joe Rogan happens to be a comedian as well. But there are people that don't have to do this thing. This is one tip amongst many. What you can do is when asked a serious question, give tough answers, that are honest. And over time, you will establish a reputation as somebody that is very authentic, that people trust and like for different reasons. And if you're out there listening, you can think of somebody right now that probably fits the bill. So you don't have to do any one of these things. It's about finding the one that when you try it on, feels good for you and that you can lean into more, and good things tend to happen.
How much do you think that people can change their charisma level? So if someone feels shy or introverted, how much have you found that people can change this? Are people infinitely malleable when it comes to their charisma level?
No. I don't think you're likely to get a Mark Zuckerberg to a Will Smith. I don't think that's going to happen with all the media training in the world. But Mark Zuckerberg has gotten better. And I actually think if he really cared to, could become a much stronger communicator than he is. So anybody can get considerably better. They can, I think, dramatically in most cases improve their dating life, their friendship circles, the confidence and happiness that they feel in a social environment, but it's not infinitely malleable. There are some people that I look at, like Russell Brand is a conversational genius. I try to break down what people do, and with so many people, I can put their responses into buckets. Like Tom Holland is going to respond with a funny story. RDJ is going to make a quip. And you can emulate those styles and get them. Russell's spontaneity and his almost the fact that he's got so many different jokes and references that he leans into. I gush over him all the time, but I wish I could do what he could do, and I can't capture it in a simple model like I can with some other people. So there's definitely levels, and I can't do what he does under any circumstances.
He's like a lexical jiu-jitsu black belt.
Yes. And he's capable of going from hilarious commentary to very value-driven, what is the purpose of life within the span of 2 sentences, which is super attractive because that's, I think, where a lot of us live. We want to have fun, but we're also interested in the deeper meaning of things.
What about if someone is feeling shy, they don't have a lot of social confidence? How can someone overcome that? How can they develop more?
So I think that we talk often about how courage is a muscle, and it's not the answer that a lot of people want to get, but I think progressive exposure therapy really is the way. And so again, in the course, we start very easy. If you're shy, you're probably biting your tongue often, not saying that you think, and you're probably mistaking that for, I don't have anything to say, nothing comes to mind. The truth is, the filter in your head is so high that nothing breaks through that as being worthy of being said. And so when we're talking to shy people, what we often tell them to do is say that you're in a situation with a taxi driver or someone else who's working for you, a waiter, a cashier, say one extra sentence, right? So the normal thing is that'll be $5.92, you give them your thing. But something is in your head. There's a magazine cover there. The weather is hot. They have a nice earring or something. Say one extra thing. And what we're trying to teach them to do is to lower that filter of what would be acceptable to say to someone. Now, there are people that have the reverse problem where they blabber on and on and on, and we need to teach them to be a bit more selective. But when you're shy, I think that's oftentimes the biggest problem, is that you think that the things that you have to say are such crap that you communicate that with every fiber of your being. And so once you're saying them, then we have to teach you, okay, say it with your chest. Say it like you mean it. Don't trail off at the end of sentences. If you're in a group conversation, do not let someone cut you off until you hit a period. So if you're mid-conversation with someone and you're finishing your thought and they jump in, you have to get to the end of it like now. And then they can take over. So it's not about being a conversational bully. It's about learning to take up conversational space in a way that is assertive. So that's a very common thing that we see with shy people, is that they're reluctant to do that. But just a handful of models like those goes a long way. And all of a sudden they're like, they didn't cut me off a second time. They realized that I wasn't going to just disappear, and they feel very happy about it.
What about the tailing off at the end of sentences thing? That's definitely something that I notice people do if they're uncomfortable in a social situation or a little bit shy. How can people overcome that?
Well, the general rule is you have to finish it with the same decibel level that you started it with. You've got to find a way. And the way that we teach people is like, look, these are new habits. When you're learning them, they might not feel like you. It's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to go, this charisma thing isn't for me. So just focus on one thing per day. Our videos are in part entertainment. They've got 5-6 things. If you try to do that all, you are going to live in your head. We want you to be in the conversation, reacting, listening. But also, I do want you thinking of one thing that you're going to do differently that day. And so what we do in the course is we structure it differently so you have one thing for each day. But if you're a shy person and you're out there, the thing that you might think of for today is, if I'm in a group setting this evening, make sure that I finish any sentence before I yield the floor. And that's it. And then you could do whatever you want. You could be awkward with your body language. You could make crappy eye contact. You could say dumb things, but you just focus on that. And over time, you are stacking these habits on top of each other such that when you get 5, 6, 7, 8 of these together, you really do have a much more powerful personality.
Talk to me about the tension between needing to learn a skill in communication and needing to be sufficiently in the conversation to be able to flow through things, because you have this system 1, system 2 dynamic going on here, right? We need to be very deliberate. System 2, I'm thinking about it. Oh, fuck, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it so much that I realize I haven't moved my body for the last 3 minutes because I've been constantly thinking about finishing my sentences at the same fucking decibel level because of that Charlie guy.
Yeah. So Ed, this is a tension. And I have... the ways that I hear people say to relieve it, just be yourself, I find do not actually lead to growth. They might lead to evolution over time as things go back, but if you want to deliberately grow, I think you have to deal with this tension. The way that we've done it is just by having one thing that you're focusing on per day, and it would be one small thing. And sometimes it's literally just a thing that occurs at the beginning of an interaction. Like, I'm going to say my answer to where are you from, like the one that I practiced and built, as opposed to the one that is reflexive. And so that's how we do it. So that there definitely is some time where I'm taking you out of the flow of conversation, and I recognize that. But I have not found a better way to learn a skill. I think it requires deliberate, I don't know, it's system 1 or 2. It requires that deliberate removing yourself from the flow of how things have always been a little bit for a period of time.